Last Monday night, Marnie Zabel and Diane Mickey and Melanie Hobson and myself went to Center for People in Need and met with about 30 people from the community to talk about establishing what's called a Poor People's Campaign. Nebraska is only one of 2 states that doesn't have a Poor People's Campaign. Scott Young, who grew up in this church and director of the food bank of Lincoln and Lancaster County, was there too. And Scott's voice was important because Scott knows a lot of the agency people in the city. And so we also met with our regional minister, Chris Morton, the ministers at South Point Christian Church, Crestwood Christian Church, and Elmwood Christian Church. So disciples were pretty well represented in this group of about 30 people. You'll probably hear more about the Poor People's Campaign in the coming months. It was launched by a pastor in a disciples church in North Carolina called Dr. William Barber. And Dr. Barber is honestly one of the people that is most like Dr. Martin Luther King that I've ever heard or met in my lifetime. The readings from Jeremiah and Luke this week brings God's vision into the lives of people who have been pushed to the margins of society. The texts are a call for justice for those who have been cast out of their community, who are people pushed to the margins. Well, in our world today, we might think this week of the people of Kurdish-occupied Syria who've fled their homes because of now border invasions from Turkey. We might think of the refugees fleeing Central America walking through Mexico up to the border of the United States, being trapped in the border, awaiting entry or refusing entry. We might think of the boatload of refugees from Tunisia who have fled their country's violence and escaped to neighboring countries such as Italy. We might think of Syrian refugees during their civil war fleeing into Jordan, millions of refugees. We might think of closer to home examples of those pushed to the margins. Maybe the teenager who becomes hooked on meth, or the jobless person sitting on the street asking for help, or the adult who struggles with mental health and can't keep a job, or the patient who's just been diagnosed with a terminal illness, or the person who is just out of prison and has no resources, no family, no place to live. What church would it be like to see the world as God sees it? From not our perspectives, but from God's perspective. To see ourselves, our loved ones, the strangers in our midst, even the enemies, as God sees all of us. What would it be like to see our world in all its beauty and in all its complexity from the perspective of God? Francis Bethany was born in 1182 in Assisi, Italy, the son of a prosperous cloth merchant of Assisi. As a young person, Francis was the town partier. He was a reveler, a carefree spirit, and he made people laugh, and he made his parents nervous. He enjoyed partying with his friends, and Francis had the dreams of becoming a knight, and and eventually, as he grew older, having a prominent place in the politics of Assisi. He fought in the war against Assisi's rival town of Perugia. And he ended up, as Assisi was defeated by Perugia, Francis ended up in prison. And he became ill. And he spent about a year in prison. And his spirit was crushed. And his emotional state was not healthful. After a year in prison, Francis returned back to Assisi from Perugia, and after a period of recovery, he eventually turned his life around. Now, like most people in this dark time of Europe's history, Francis avoided a certain group of people that were pushed to the margins, and this group of people were called lepers. Lepers were people with blood-stained faces and shaved heads, and their bodies were dressed in gray sackcloth, and their faces were emaciated, and they often had pus dripping from open sores. There was a leper hospital near Assisi, out in the country, and the hospital was called San Lazaro. And one day Francis was riding his horse out in the country, beautiful, beautiful countryside of Assisi, and he caught a leper walking toward him. And usually Francis would do anything that he could to avoid the leper. But today, that day, Francis approached this man. Something made him not turn away or follow his instinct. And as he saw the leper walking, he knew that this man would have to be separated from his family, his community, and his fellow human beings for the rest of his life. And Francis had compassion for the man. So he went up to the leper, and he kissed him twice, once on the cheek and once on the lips. And that encounter changed the life of this young man called Francis. It led eventually to his conversion. And St. Francis, or Francis, who became a saint, has been one of the most inspirational figures that our world has ever known. Just days before his death, on October 3rd, 1226, we just celebrated on October 4th, the feast day of Francis. Francis wrote these moving words just 2 days before he died. Francis says in his last will and testament, "This is how God inspired me, Brother Francis, to embark upon a life of penance. When I was in sin, the sight of lepers nauseated me beyond measure. But then God himself led me into their company, and as I had pity on them, when I had once become acquainted with them, what had previously nauseated me became a source of spiritual and physical consolation for me." In today's lesson, Jesus and his disciples are walking from way up north in their home in Galilee, Nazareth, south to Jerusalem. And as they are walking near the region of Samaria, 10 lepers approach Jesus and the disciples. And as we would expect Jesus to do, he has mercy on the 10 men. Mercy was something found lacking in the lives of lepers, not only in St. Francis' day, but in Jesus' day as well. In Jesus' day, leprosy would be any kind of a skin disease. In St. Francis' day, it was pretty much known as a severe terminal disease. Jesus would know that these people with leprosy would be excluded from their communities, and as our text notes in verse 12 of chapter 17, they cry out to Jesus to keep distance from them, because this was what was recommended, or this was law, that lepers would announce to people to not come near them. As Jesus hears the pleas for mercy, he asks the lepers to present themselves before the priests. Only the priests could certify that a leper's health had been restored and that a person could once again be safe to be around. The 10 abide by Jesus' instructions. They go, and as they go to seek restoration, they're healed. This is a faith story. One of the men returns to Jesus, and he kneels before Jesus and he gives thanks. And he happens to be a Samaritan. Jews and Samaritans had issues with each other. Their history was contentious. And Jesus asked the Samaritan, "Where are the other 9? Because all were made clean." And he says to the Samaritan, after noticing he's the only one that comes back and asks for help, Jesus says, Get up and go your own way. Your faith has made you well." This is a story about gratitude. 10 lepers are healed, but only one leper returns to give thanks. Our basic posture toward God is one of gratitude. Gratitude for the gifts of life, gratitude for the world that we live in, how much or how little we have, gratitude for the people who have entered our lives and graced and blessed our lives. Gratitude for the church, gratitude for the saints and prophets, the saints of yesterday like St. Francis, who taught us so much to care for the creation around us. If only we had the desire to love creation 900 years later that Francis had in his time, then maybe we wouldn't have global warming. And we give thanks for the prophets of the 21st century in today's world, like Dr. William Lauber, who are transforming the 21st century church to be more like Christ. Church, we are in the second week of our Ministry of Giving Stewardship emphasis, and our theme is planting seeds for the future. Last week we challenged you to plant a seed or two and watch it grow. Today, Minnie Stevens will share with us how our faith community is working to plant seeds in the larger community as we work together to build a more compassionate world. So let us see church the way that God sees us. Let us see the world with compassion, with unconditional acceptance. Let us seek justice for all people. Let us see that our lives and our destinies are woven together in this beautiful tapestry we call life. And may we find grace and blessing in the places and in the situations and into the lives of people that we encounter on the way. Let us be free enough to go where God calls us to go. We offer you an invitation to become a part of the community that seeks to offer healing, acceptance, and compassion to the community around us.